It started like a case I'd seen 100 times before. A missing person, a locked apartment, and a desperate mother crying in a hallway. But within an hour, I realized we weren't looking at a disappearance. We were staring at the final act of performance so calculated, so deliberate. It felt more like theater than homicide. The call came in from Manhattan, Upper West Side. A 23-year-old drama student named Elliot Brand hadn't been heard from in 2 days. That wasn't unusual for college kids, but his mother insisted. He never missed my calls, not even when we argued. The doorman said Elliot hadn't left the building in over 48 hours. I arrived with uniformed officers. The apartment door was locked from the inside. No sign of forced entry. We got approval to breach. The second I walked in, I felt it. Stillness. Not the chaos of a struggle, not the disorder of panic. Curated silence. The apartment was spotless. Every book in place. A pot of untouched coffee sat cold on the stove, as if he'd intended to come back for it. On the coffee table, a single manila folder, labeled Final Stage. Inside were 7 pages, typed. A play. No title. No character names. Just stage directions and dialogue. But the dialogue was strange. A man confronting himself. Talking to a second voice. Not an argument. An interview. A confession, maybe. But written in third person, like Elliot had removed himself emotionally from the content. The last line read, "The curtain falls. The body is found. Applause." We searched the apartment. No sign of Elliot, but the bedroom had been converted into a black box theater. I'm not exaggerating. Black curtains on all 4 walls. A single spotlight fixed to the ceiling. A camera on a tripod. Recording. In the center of the room. A chair. And duct tape. Not used, just placed. Next to it, another script. Identical to the first, but with red ink markings. Notes. Direction. Timing. One phrase was circled in bold red ink. Make it believable. I checked the footage from the camera. It was still running. I hit rewind, and I watched. Elliot enters. Calm. Measured. He sits. Begins to speak. Reads from the script, word for word. At first, it looks like a rehearsal. But then, midway through performance, something shifts. He stops reading. Starts talking directly to the camera. "You think I'm sick," he says. "You think I'm broken. But I'm not. I'm just tired of pretending." Then silence. He stares ahead. For almost 4 full minutes. No movement. No blinking. And then the screen goes black. No ending. No resolution. I have forensics sweep the place. No blood. No signs of a body being moved. No exit footage from the building. Nothing on the elevators. Security cameras showed him coming in Tuesday night. Alone. And then nothing. I dug deeper into his recent life. His classmates said he'd been intense lately. Obsessed with a final project for his directing class. Said he wanted to blur the line between art and reality. One student recalled him saying, "Death is just the last scene. It's only shocking if the audience still thinks it's real." He'd withdrawn from his classes 2 weeks earlier. Quietly. No announcement. When I called the department, they were surprised. His name had been removed from the student list entirely. I checked the building's blueprints. Found a small access panel behind one of the bedroom curtains. Led to a crawl space between apartments. Maintenance rarely entered. It was used for old plumbing access. We opened it. Inside, we found a sleeping bag. Empty food wrappers. A burner phone. Elliot had lived in that space for at least a week. Watching his own apartment. Setting the stage. Preparing the narrative. But why? The answer came from the phone. One message, unsent, still saved in drafts. If they find the chair and believe the act, then I'm finally more than background. This wasn't about suicide. This was about control. He didn't want to disappear. He wanted to curate his absence. Force others to interpret it. He'd turn his own life into a story. One where no one could agree on the ending. We never found him. Not officially. But 3 months later, a video surfaced online. Grainy. Black and white. No audio. A man masked, performing a monologue in an abandoned warehouse theater in Chicago. The movements were precise, familiar. The final line of that performance: "No one misses the actor until he leaves the stage." The clip was taken down within hours. Account deleted. IP address masked through 7 countries. But the mannerisms, the rhythm, even the phrasing, it was Elliot. No charges were ever filed. No body was ever recovered. But I kept the script. And sometimes, late at night, I reread that last page. Because Elliot didn't vanish. He redirected. And the only difference between a missing person and a myth is how good the story is. And Elliot Brandt wrote a damn good one. There are crime scenes that scream at you the second you walk in. Walls marked with chaos, blood, broken glass, overturned furniture. And then there are scenes like this one, where everything is too still, too arranged, where the silence isn't peace. It's a trap. The call came from a town just outside St. Louis. Affluent suburb, wide lawns, tall fences, clean sidewalks. The kind of place where nothing ever happens, until it does. Victim: Caleb Forrester, 56, corporate accountant, divorced, lived alone. The report came from his ex-wife, Karen. Their daughter, Lacey, 14, was supposed to spend the weekend with him. When she didn't return Sunday night and didn't answer her phone, Karen drove over. She found the front door unlocked. Caleb was lying face down on the living room carpet. No visible trauma, no blood, no sign of a break-in. Lacey was gone. I arrived on scene 23 minutes after the body was discovered. Everything was undisturbed, television off, mail stacked neatly by the door, dishes in the sink, and on the kitchen table, 2 place settings, one untouched, the other half-eaten, pasta, broccoli, milk, a child's meal, fresh. The medical examiner confirmed what I suspected. Caleb had been dead for less than 4 hours. Cardiac arrest. But here's the thing. There were no medications in the house. No conditions on record. And the toxicology came back clean. He didn't die naturally. His heart just stopped, which meant one thing. He was terrified. I found no evidence of physical assault. But near the staircase, I noticed a small detail. Something easy to miss. A line of smudges on the drywall at a child height. Like someone had slid their fingers along the wall, gripping for balance or for safety. Upstairs, Lacey's overnight bag was still packed. Her toothbrush was damp, but she was gone. No struggle. No sign she'd taken anything with her. Except one thing, her journal. That was the crack. I questioned Karen, the mother. She was cooperative, but visibly on edge. She said Caleb had been off lately, paranoid, anxious. Mentioned once that he thought someone was watching the house. But when she pressed him, he shut down. Said he was imagining things. Neighbors confirmed the same. Caleb used to jog every morning. Then he stopped. Canceled gym membership. Ordered blackout curtains. One neighbor saw him installing a second lock on the inside of Lacey's bedroom door. That detail chilled me. Because you only had a lock inside a child's room. If you think someone else might come in. We pulled footage from a smart doorbell across the street. And there it was, 2 nights before the incident. At 2:41 a.m., a figure walked up to Caleb's driveway, didn't approach the door, just stood there, motionless, for 7 minutes, then turned and walked away. No face, no identifying features, just presence. I traced Caleb's calls. He'd made only one significant call the week prior, to a man named Harvey Mott, a former private security consultant, retired military, worked freelance now. I found him in a small apartment above a laundromat. Quiet guy, spoke like someone always assessing exits. I showed him Caleb's photo. He nodded slowly. He was scared, Harvey said, not of being hurt, of losing control. Apparently, Caleb had hired him for surveillance, said he'd intercepted something on Lacey's tablet, a message, deleted before he could screenshot it, from a user called He Whispers. Harvey found no breach in the Wi-Fi, no malware, but he admitted something strange. The tablet's microphone had been activated remotely, multiple times. Caleb was convinced someone had access to his daughter's device. And not just to spy, to talk to her. Harvey told him to contact the police. Caleb refused, said if he couldn't stop it himself, it was already too late. We tracked Lacey's phone. Signal was dead. Last ping, 2:14 a.m., hours before the body was discovered. Location? Just 2 blocks from the house. I canvassed the area. That's when I found the shed. Small, tucked behind an abandoned property. Locked from the outside. No obvious signs. Just instinct. Inside was a mattress, a backpack, water bottles, a small camping lantern, and a drawing, crayon on notebook paper. A man, stick figure, no face, just a black oval. And next to him, a child with long hair, holding hands. On the back, don't tell, or he goes away too. DNA confirmed Lacey had been in the shed, but she was gone. We issued an Amber Alert, national coverage, but nothing. No one came forward. No ransom. No communication. Just silence. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived at Karen's address. No return label. Inside was a single sentence, typed in bold. She is with someone who listens. That was it. No fingerprints. No DNA. Just the weight of those words. We still don't know if Lacey ran willingly, if she was groomed, threatened, coerced, if Caleb's heart gave out from fear or grief. But I'll never forget the feeling in that house. Not the stillness, the intention behind it. Because sometimes a silent crime scene isn't a mystery. It's a message. And every time I think about that message, I wonder how long Caleb had been holding it in, and how heavy silence can become before it kills you. The text came in at 1:03 a.m. It was only 5 words. I think someone's in here. It was the kind of message that stops your breath, not because of what it says, but because of what might have happened seconds after it was sent. The sender was Emily Reeves, 27, a trauma nurse in Chicago. Lived alone in a compact second-floor apartment near Lincoln Square. Known to be calm under pressure. Worked night shifts. Knew how to handle emergencies. And yet, after that message, no one ever heard from her again. The text was sent to her brother, Michael. He tried calling. Straight to voicemail. He drove to her place in under 15 minutes. No lights on. Her car was still parked out front. He rang the bell, pounded on the door. Nothing. He called 911. I was brought in the next morning. By then, patrol had already forced entry. There was no one inside. No Emily. But the door had been locked from the inside. That was the first red flag. Her keys were still on the counter. Wallet on the table. Phone missing. And in the kitchen sink, 2 plates. 1 bowl of half-eaten soup. Another rinse, but not dried. That told me she wasn't alone when she sent that message. Her apartment was tidy. No signs of struggle. No overturned furniture. But sometimes it's not about what's there. It's about what's off. The rug near the couch had been shifted slightly to the left. That doesn't happen by accident. The coffee table had a faint scuff mark, as if something heavy had been dragged around it. In her bedroom, everything was untouched, except the closet door. It was cracked open just a few inches. I checked inside. Empty, but on the inside wall at shoulder height, there were faint vertical scratches. That wasn't damage from clothes hangers. It was fingernails. I had forensics lift prints. All hers, except for one partial on the outside doorknob. Smudged. Useless. Her laptop was open on the desk. Tabs still active. YouTube video pause, grocery list, and a browser tab on emergency locksmiths near me. That was time-stamped at 12:47 a.m. 16 minutes before the message. She'd locked herself in, but not because she'd lost her key. Because she was trying to keep someone out, or already knew they were in. The building had 2 entrances, front and back. The rear door had a keypad. No signs of tampering. I pulled camera footage from a neighbor's Ring doorbell. At 12:26 a.m., a man approaches the building. Hoodie, backpack, doesn't buzz, just waits. 2 minutes later, a delivery driver walks up. The man follows him in, timing the entry, never looks at the camera, never turns around. I froze the frame and enhanced it. A detail stood out, rubber gloves, already on, before even entering. He came prepared. He was in the building for 22 minutes. And then he left, alone. No bag, no hoodie, just a dark t-shirt. Calm, almost bored. He walked to a car parked half a block away. A black Mazda, plates removed. I ran the partial VIN visible on the dashboard. Nothing registered. The case went national within days. Emily's face on every screen. But the trail was thin. No ransom, no demands, no sightings, until 6 days later. A sanitation worker in a neighboring suburb opened a public dumpster and found a cracked phone case. Emily's. No phone, just the case. And inside it, a torn piece of a receipt from a nearby gas station. I checked security footage there. At 3:12 a.m. the night of the disappearance, the same man in the hoodie bought a burner phone and prepaid credit. Paid cash. No prints. Surveillance only got the back of his head. But here's the moment that chilled me. He turns to leave and passes a mirror mounted near the lottery counter. His face is visible for just 1 second. Calm. Controlled. Eyes dead. Not angry. Not rushed. Just empty. Like someone rehearsing a routine. We never found Emily. No body. No trace. But 10 months later, another woman, same age, same build, vanished from a neighboring city. Same pattern. Text sent. I don't think I'm alone. Same timing. Same silence afterward. Different apartment. Different locks. Same outcome. We're looking at someone who doesn't just plan. He studies. Knows routines. Watches for weeks. Times his entry. Makes the victim feel like she's imagining things until it's too late. And the worst part? He doesn't rush. He waits, probably inside already, blending into closets, shadows, stillness. That message Emily sent, "I think someone's in here," was her final line of defense. And it wasn't enough. I still have the screenshot of her message pinned above my desk. Not because it helps the case, because it reminds me that some crimes are silent, clinical, scripted, and the most terrifying part is knowing that whoever she texted about was already close enough to hear it. Most cases start with a body, a witness, or at least a trace. But this one started with nothing. Not a drop of blood. Not a scream. Not a call to 911. Just a man sitting in an interrogation room, quietly saying, "I'd like to confess to a murder." His name was Daniel Mercer, 39, former paramedic, now a night janitor at a university campus in Ohio. No record, no known issues. Walked into the precinct alone, asked to speak with detective, said he didn't want a lawyer, said he didn't want to waste time, and then he told me he'd killed a woman named Abby Vance. I asked how. He said he poisoned her. Arsenic. Claimed he'd been planning it for 6 months. Said she was his neighbor. Claimed she didn't even know he existed. I looked into it immediately. We found her. Alive. Completely unharmed. No symptoms. No complaints. In fact, Abby said she barely knew Daniel. He lives 2 doors down, she said. Never spoke to him. Just a quiet guy. But Daniel insisted. I did it, he kept saying. I followed her. I learned her routine. I dosed her coffee 3 days ago. She should be dead by now. He gave me specific details. Described her apartment layout, her car, even what time she left for work. Everything he said checked out. But when we examined her apartment, no tampering. Her coffee supplies were untouched. We even sent blood samples for tox screening. Nothing. Clean. That's when I started asking the real question. Why? Daniel's affect didn't change. No agitation. No remorse. Just calm precision. He said he'd been testing the boundary between thought and action. Said he wanted to see how far he could go before reality caught up. I asked him if he ever actually touched anything in her apartment. No, he said, but I imagined it in detail. Every night. For months. Every lock. Every step. I was there in my head. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a confession to a crime. It was a confession to intention. And that's not illegal. We had to let him go. No charges. No crime. But I couldn't shake it. His mind had clearly crossed some invisible threshold. He hadn't committed a murder, but he'd rehearsed it like a performance. Not sloppy fantasy, methodical obsession. I kept tabs on him. Legally, quietly. 1 week later, he requested time off from work. Disappeared for 3 days. No explanation. I visited Abby again. She was on edge. Said she felt like someone had been watching her at night. Nothing concrete. No threats. Just that feeling. I ordered a patrol car to check her block nightly. Third night in, around 3:30 a.m., the officer spotted Daniel standing across the street. No mask, no gloves, just watching. He was detained, questioned, and released again. No weapons, no trespassing, just watching. That's when I brought him back in, this time under a psychiatric hold. And during the psych evaluation, he said something that still rings in my ears. Do you realize how powerful it is to know you could destroy someone and choose not to? He wasn't fantasizing about death. He was addicted to control. The psychologist diagnosed him with a rare form of obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, mixed with high-functioning psychopathy, a brain wired for planning, devoid of typical emotional friction. No guilt, no anger, just structure, a predator of the mind. I dug deeper into his past. In high school, he was top of his class in chemistry. Worked part-time as a mortuary assistant. Aced anatomy courses. But after his mother's death, sudden, unexplained, he spiraled into isolation. No foul play was suspected back then. Now, I'm not so sure. Over the next few weeks, we found something else. His computer. Encrypted files. Dozens of them. Each one a dossier. Photos. Maps. Timelines. Grocery receipts. Trash pickup schedules. Labeled by names of women. All local. All alive. Each file ended with a phrase typed in bold. Not yet. No evidence of action. No crime scenes. But the intent? It was undeniable. He wasn't fantasizing. He was preparing. But there's a twist. Preparation isn't prosecution. Legally, we can hold him. No threats made. No weapons found. Just an ocean of almosts. So he walks free. I still see his face sometimes. Not in nightmares. In case briefings. As a case study. As a warning. Because Daniel Mercer didn't kill anyone. But he knew how to disappear inside the cracks of the law. And if he ever does strike, there won't be hesitation. Just execution. So remember this. The most dangerous crime isn't the one you see. It's the one that lives fully formed in the mind of someone who's smart enough to wait. I've always said crime scenes don't lie. People do. And sometimes, the smallest sound in a house can tell you more than a witness ever will. It was a Sunday morning when I got the call. Quiet residential area in Phoenix. Upper middle class. Clean streets. One-story houses with identical mailboxes. The homeowner, Brittany Ellis, 33, didn't show up for her morning shift at the dental clinic. That wasn't like her. Never missed a day. Never late. Her co-worker tried calling. No answer. After hours without contact. They called the police. Officers arrived. No signs of forced entry. Her car was still in the driveway. The blinds were drawn. Everything from the outside looked normal. They knocked. Rang. No response. Then they heard it, the washer. A steady hum from inside. That's what made them force the door. I arrived shortly after they did. And I remember this clearly. As I stepped into the hallway, that mechanical whirring filled the space. Too clean, too precise. In a silent house, that sound felt wrong. And it was. Brittany was found in the master bedroom, on the floor, face down, dressed in pajamas. No blood, no bruises, but her lips were blue. Rigor had already set in. Time of death, somewhere around midnight. I checked the thermostat. Set low. Someone had dropped the temperature in the house. A classic move to delay decomposition. Smart. Cold slows the body down. But it was the laundry room that gave me my first real lead. The washer was running. Mid-cycle. I opened it. Inside, a set of bed sheets. Damp. Stained faintly pink. Blood. Diluted, but still there. They'd been washed once already. This was the second cycle. That sound, that hum, wasn't just background noise. It was the sound of someone trying to erase something. Forensics went to work. No forced entry. No defensive wounds. No signs of sexual assault. Just Brittany gone. Peaceful looking. Except for the faint trace of saliva at the edge of her mouth. We ran tox. Nothing immediate. But I had a theory. There was a wine glass on the nightstand. Clean, almost too clean. A second one was missing. No wine bottle. Either, not in the trash. Not in the kitchen. Whoever was there took the bottle. And their glass. And they washed the sheets. I started with her phone. Text showed one name repeated the night before. Zach. No last name, just first. I pulled the threads. He was a regular at her gym. They'd gone out a few times. She'd texted a friend earlier that night. He's coming over. I'm nervous. Hope it's not weird. Zach was brought in 2 days later. Calm, polite, cooperative. He admitted he was at Brittany's that night. Said they watched a movie. Had some wine. She felt sleepy, went to bed early. He claimed he left around midnight. Alone. I asked why he didn't call anyone when he heard what happened. I didn't know, he said, but his voice cracked. Just slightly. That one hairline fracture was enough. I asked if he touched anything in her house. He said no, so I showed him the washer receipt. Turns out, Brittany had recently replaced a unit with a smart washer, cloud connected. The app logged all usage, every cycle, every load, and at 12:51 a.m., someone started a sanitary heavy wash. The cycle lasted 95 minutes, meaning, if Zach left around midnight like he claimed, who started the washer? His expression changed. I panicked, he finally said. She collapsed. I didn't know what to do. I pressed him. Collapsed how? She just stopped breathing. She was fine 1 second, then not. I thought maybe she choked on something, or reacted to the wine. But toxicology came back. Brittany had traces of alprazolam, a sedative, prescription strength. Not hers. Zach had no prescription. Now I knew what happened. He drugged her wine. Maybe didn't intend to kill her. Maybe just wanted her pliable. Compliant. He panicked when she reacted badly. Maybe it was the dose. Maybe she mixed it with something else earlier. Instead of calling for help, he stripped the bed, threw the sheets in the wash, took his glass, the wine bottle, and ran. But the washer told the truth, and it never stopped humming. That sound? It wasn't background noise. It was a sound of guilt, spinning in circles. People lie. They cry. They panic. They rationalize. But machines? They only do what they're told. And sometimes that's all I need, because in a house full of silence, the sound of the washer was the only witness.